Sometimes you get a removal that's in a very difficult location, and getting the wood down safely without tearing up the yard is often a challenge. My name is Blair and I'm an ISA certified arborist. In this particular tree, obviously the roping of the limbs and some of the upper wood was part of the procedure, but when you get down lower and it gets really tight, you've got to figure out different ways of doing things. One of the tricks that we use frequently is a couple of big old truck tires, and that seems to soften the impact. As I said before, you've got to rope down as much of it as you possibly can first to keep things in good control. If you look at the base of the tree, we have a lowering device attached to the trunk, which comes in very useful. There's also some electrical wires, some telephone wires, a lot of obstacles. But very important, because the two houses were so close together, the woman wanted to maintain the privacy. That was very critical to her. Another technique that we use sometimes, it's a bit of a nuisance, but it works really well, is to lay some plywood down in the area that you want to work with, and you bring out a bunch of chips. It's a lot of work, but chips are a very effective way of dampening the impact from big wood falling from a high distance. We also put a lot of timbers around the edges so that if there is any deflection or if anything does roll, it's not going to slam into the plants or the fence. This particular tree was a split trunk. At about 10 feet it divided off into, it was like two separate trees, which doubled our work. We also utilized the technique of putting dowels underneath each piece so that they could be pulled off, and instead of hanging up and falling more straight down, you get a little bit more direction out of them. The rope gives a little bit more pull, and it softens the blow. The wood comes down and boom, it just stops. The only problem is you got to keep fluffing up that chip pile. You got to keep throwing the chips back up on top because it hits the pile and spreads it out, and eventually it'll crush all the way through. Because the tree was dead, we also had the problem of the bark peeling off, which is a real nuisance and quite dangerous. Now you might think that putting all the chips out is adding a lot of work to the job, and it is. It does add a lot of work. Just cleaning up the mess is about an hour's worth of work for the whole crew. But it saved the lawn. Most importantly, it gave a way to stop all that momentum. And a lot of these pieces were really heavy. There's a piece where the bark just blew off as soon as it hit the ground. Now we have this great brush cart or wood cart that we've got that will haul as much as 1,000 or 1,200 pounds. But you can see it was all we can do to get this one piece up in the air. Well, Adam there is just not quite heavy enough. And as you can see, the job is moving right along. Now it's critical that everybody on a team is well aware of the procedure that is taking place, and everyone is on target for what the next move is going to be. Because the two trunks were pushing together so tightly, the back trunk was pushing on the front one, so we weren't able to cut all the way through. It would have pinched our cut. So it was a difficult job all the way around. Finally we got down to the wire and we were able to push it up and fell the last 10 feet onto the brush pile, or onto the chip pile. But it worked out. It was a real slow job. Took us 3 full days, and the last day we had 6 guys on it. But all was well. We didn't do any damage. Thanks for taking the time to view this presentation. Once again, my name is Blair, and I am an ISA certified arborist.